Thank you very much, Theo. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the transportation staff meeting here on August 14th. We have one item on our agenda today, and that is going to be to the discussion of applying for CRTPO funds through the discretionary grants program. It's going to be presented by Jennifer Stafford. Jennifer, would you please take it away?
Sharing my screen. There it is. All right, so there's a delay when I advance. I apologize in advance. So I'm Jennifer Stafford. I am the staff lead for the discretionary grants program, and our call for projects opened on Monday. So today I wanted to talk about just the overall process for applying for funds. Many of you I see in the room have already applied. You might pick up a few tidbits here, especially at the beginning. And then there's a couple new names on there, and just know that I'm here to help you. So I want to let you know that. So we'll start with these little delays. So I wanted to just do a funding overview, a little bit about our website, application information and requirements, the two required Form 1 and 2. We had some policy revisions last year, and I just wanted to highlight those in case you didn't apply last year. There's a few little changes. Just a little high level about planning projects, and then we'll take Q&A. So we'll start with the funding because I know it's high on everybody's list. So this year we have 33 million to program. You can see there's about $500,000 in the carbon reduction, and typically we use that for projects like EV charging or some other air quality type projects. The most flexible funds we have, fortunately, is what we have the most funds for, so 32.5 million. Most of these funds will be programmed in federal fiscal year 28, 29. Having said that, if you're applying for engineering funds, we will do our best to accommodate you sooner to get the engineering going if you desire that. So that's a question that we will ask you in the pre-submittal meetings. So our policy targets 80% of the available funds for highway and 20% for non-highway. So that's about 26 million for highway projects and about 6.5 for non-highway projects. Compare that to last year, we had about 62 million. So this year I expect, each year we keep promoting this program a little bit more, and so everything is getting far more competitive. But just keep those numbers in mind. Also, we clarified in the policy last year that the way we cap the project request. So we have a cap per project, not per town, of 25% of the target by mode. So highway, if you do 25% of the 26 million is 6.5. And for bike ped or non-highway projects, 6.5 times 25%, again, 1.6 million or so. So let me pause there for just a second. Any questions so far? If not, I'm going to keep going. So with your good behavior of joining today, I can share this information with you, and we'll share it at the TCC and the board too. But this is just a recap of the 2023 Fall Call Awards. So we had 6 highway projects. The corridor projects had matches of 50% or higher, and those applicants only asked for construction. So when we go over a little bit more of the scoring, the higher the phase that you request for funds, we look at that as a readiness, and so you'll score higher points. We had 3 intersection projects last year, and the average local match on those were 32%. And some of those went from design to construction request. With the bike ped, we had 6 bike ped projects. The average grant request was 1.88 million. 3 of those requests for design through construction, 3 were construction only. The average match on that was 31%. In 2022, I believe the average match was about 35%. So you can see people are putting in much larger matches to get those extra points. Also recall on 2 slides ago, we had the max capped for bike ped at about 1.6 million. So it's a little bit less than the average grant size last year. So if you have a project that's going to be, 4 or 5 million, you're probably going to have to add in, well, you will need to add in more local match or change the scope of your project just a little bit. So Travis is going to put in some links on our website where to find some applications and some estimating resources. So we have on the website is announcements. I should probably add that if we have any change in the applications, we'll upload it and then just put a little note like what the date is that we've made any changes. So I type over the same applications year after year, and I apologize. It's sometimes I can't find every little tweak that I've changed the year before. So hopefully we don't have that too much, but I wanted to let you know to just kind of keep watch of our website. We have the pre-submittal agendas on the website, but they are also part of the application package. Form 1 and 2 are on the website. Form 1 is for new projects. Form 2 is for projects that need supplemental funding. The resources, again, in the link has estimating, or if you're confused which phase a task is done, there's some information in there. There's also some unit pricing in there, and you'll have to sort of, if you choose to use it in mind of where you're located. So those unit prices are taken from the city of Charlotte. Of course, being Charlotte, our prices might be a little bit higher than, say, Troutman or something like that. So if you want to use them, but you might, use a little adjustment to it. The timeline for the fall call is in there as well. We'll go over that. The discretionary grants program policy guide, there's a link to that in there, and then eventually the awards are in there. The awards are in there from the last year's. If you want any additional information on previous awards, I can get that for you. So at a high level, application requirements, and this isn't all of them, but it's the main ones. I think this is our 4th year doing pre-submittal meetings, and they're required. The pre-submittal meetings need to be completed before October 18th, 5 p.m. I will accommodate you as much as possible. In each of the applications is some suggested times that I know CRTPO staff and CDOT staff is available. If we have complex applications, I will invite FHWA too, so they can help answer questions. As part of your application package, you need to have estimates prepared by an engineer or architect. They need to be within 6 months. So something newer. Your application in Form 1 or 2 is required. There's a 20% minimum match. And that's for planning projects, supplemental, carbon reduction, and then the capital, and that's all of them. So keep that in mind. We need a letter of financial support or even a resolution. So some towns need to go to their board, and I get a copy of that resolution. If you're meeting with your board to get approval to apply and you're just a week or two late, we'll accept that. I mean, we're not trying to make you jump through big hoops, but we do want to collect that eventually. So we're not going through this award process and then a month or two later going, oops, we can't budget that. So that's just being respectful of everybody's time. And then one policy change we made last year, and I put it in here just so you're aware, starting with the awards, actually from the last fall call, which were awarded earlier this year. The future shortfalls, again, not the older projects, but just now starting, shortfalls can't exceed the original application amount or 3 million. And I know if you think the original application amount, you might think that sounds like a lot, but if you have $1 million bike ped project, to double that, it's possible. So a $3 million cap on that. This outline is in every application, and it is also on our website. It's written out a little bit nicer looking on our website, but I wanted to use this one. So again, we just opened the call on August 12th. The mandatory application pre-submittal meeting is October 18th before 5, and I just highlight that because we haven't had anybody miss that date, but if you miss it, I'm not going to accept your application. So it sounds cold, but it helps staff. It'll help you answer questions for your application. We found it to be very helpful, and it's helpful for NCDOT as well, so they can see the projects that are coming or potential projects. And then the application deadline is October 31st at 5 p.m. I will be here until 5, and then I will change my Outlook email to an automated response at 5. Again, knock on wood, I haven't had anybody be late, so I haven't had to turn anybody away. 2 years ago, or 3 years, it might be 3 years ago now, I had somebody apply at like 4:59, and I was sweating it because I know from the pre-submittal meetings that you're going to apply. And I really, really, really don't want to turn anybody away, but I need to be fair, and that's my job. So I just wanted to stress. On November 14th, which I believe is a Thursday, we'll do the applicant presentations to the project oversight committee. And again, we've been doing this for a few years. These are optional. You don't score any more points, and they're all remote. These are fun to watch because you can see what other members are applying for. It usually takes the full 2 hours. We usually go 2 to 4. We break it up into modes. So I think highway goes first, bike ped or carbon reduction or air quality, and then bike ped or something like that. The planning projects do not present at this time, nor do shortfall projects. And then the project oversight committee will meet in December and look at scores, look at funding types, and make a recommended list to the TCC. And then that will be reviewed in January 2025. And then of course the TCC recommends to the board. And so then the action for both TCC and the board is in February 2025. And then as soon as I can afterwards, we will make that announcement to you all. You can certainly follow it. I think it's fair to say I'm going out on a limb a little bit, but when the TCC makes the first recommendation for information to the board, I think if your project's on there, it's looking pretty good. Now the board has the last say. The board has also adopted the policy that we're following. So, it usually moves pretty well, but I want to just let you know that. So you'll have an idea of how it's going if you tune into the board meetings. So the pre-submittal meetings that again are required are with CRTPO and NCDOT staff. The purpose is to review the scope in your concepts and then discuss any project challenges. So If you're going across railroad tracks or something like that, probably call more on NCDOT, but CRTPO's got some experience with this type of stuff too. So we are here to try to help you. We will start reviewing estimates from your information for the pre-submittal meetings. It's pretty high level. We're looking for glaring mistakes. We're not looking for details. That risk is on you. We don't want to be changing your total amount, so we're liable for anything, but we do want to make sure there's enough covered to get your project successfully completed. We'll answer your questions typically, depending how prepared you are and how in advance you send us information. The meeting's 30 to 60 minutes per project. If you want to do 2 projects back to back, just add in another 30 minutes per project. So 2 projects, just go ahead and plan on an hour and a half. And if we get done in 45 minutes, then that's great. But I'd rather have too much time than not enough. We do appreciate your information in advance of the meeting. This has been a hard one to require. So I will just say we appreciate it. If you can't do it and the first time we see the information is during the pre-submittal meeting, the concept and the estimates, then we will certainly look at them closer after the pre-submittal meeting. There's a lot of advantage with the pre-submittal meetings for staff because it helps me get organized. Start folders, we know what's coming. We do not share information from one applicant to another. So if you are showing your local match amount, for example, on Form 1, we would never let another member know that. If you want to just plug in 20%, we will probably say that's probably low, but if you just want to, hold the cards close to your chest, we understand that too. And I will say, if you are a newer applicant and you would like more than one meeting, we are happy to do that. So if you just want to get the basics understanding of, deeper of how to fill out the application or something like that, what we require for estimates, we're happy to meet with you more than once. So just know we're here. We really want to help you a lot. So I'm going to get into a little bit more of the applications. We're probably halfway through the slides, so hang in there with me. There are 6 application types on our website. You can see them here: air quality improvement. So if you know you're going to target that $500,000 for carbon reduction funds, if you can use this air quality improvement project application, that would be helpful. Sometimes they're in a fine line at which type of application to use, and we will help you with that. But that air quality one is a little bit more of a capital feel. Bike ped projects, transit, highway planning, and shortfall. So they all have their own set of questions in there. Each of the 6 applications have a layout very similar. So at the very beginning, underneath the cover is the announcement, and it has the times for pre-submittal meetings. It has the pre-submittal form in an agenda. So one way to do this, I think it's the way I think of it in my mind's eye, is you submit the pre-submittal form to me, and it's sort of saying, here's my project, I start a folder, and then you're requesting a pre-submittal meeting at the same time. You can try to just use a time slot that's available, and I will let you know if it's already booked, but that oftentimes works well. In the pre-submittal form, and another reason why we like this is on the highway especially, there's the project limits, so we can already start gathering data and getting organized when we meet with NCDOT's traffic safety to get some raw data. So again, we're not trying to make you jump through unnecessary hoops. There's a reason for almost everything. Hopefully everything. And below that's the table of contents. So again, on each of the applications, there's like this overview of the process and just about our fall shortfall for projects. So it's very, very much a summary that just applies to the program in general. So there's 4 pages of that, and then there's the grant application. So the whole package is quite long, but don't let it scare you, because it's really the grant application package that you can either delete the upper part or you can submit the whole entire document. Most people just submit all of it, but some people just get rid of that front, which they've reviewed it and submit the grant. Form 1 is a required form for new projects, and there's a lot of notes on here. The way you use it is everything in yellow needs to be filled out. So put your project name in there. Use the drop down. The example has design, but if you are complete with design, and you're only going for construction, then you would use the drop down for that you have completed right away. Excuse me. You might only be coming for construction, but be in some type of concept mode or early design. You need to use your best judgment, and we will look at that closely during or after the pre-submittal meetings. We want to make sure that you're requesting enough funds to get your project completed. If you're using a supplemental application, then we'll have you use Form 2. The local match should be at least 20% in increments of 5. Funds should be around the nearest thousands. Again, most of the funds will be programmed in FY 28-29. I very much use Form 1 when I start doing the TIP amendments to program. So typically in the pre-submittal meetings, I ask for your wish list. I'm okay with you putting your wish list in these in the desired year. If we can get it funded when you would like, that's great. So far, we've been pretty successful with that. And if we're not, then we'll do something to make it fair for everybody. And so this form will add on inflation and contingency for you. So this form isn't intended to be used for your estimate. You take your estimate and you plug it in here. And again, if you get stuck on these forms, we will help you at any time. And, I'm just always answering emails throughout the fall call. So feel free to email me nonstop, it's fine. Form 2 is for the shortfall projects, very similar to Form 1. Put the awarded amounts from your previous municipal agreements in there, and then you put your new estimate in, and the form will calculate what you need. And it will also put inflation on the new estimate and contingency. So if you have a 2019 project, there wasn't contingencies added to construction, nor were there any inflation. And so this has caused a lot of shortfalls. So we don't want to just keep going with that method. We want to go ahead and add it in. I mean, if it's a little bit over, the funds go back to CRTPO. So if you request 2 million when our form is saying you need 2 million and you're thinking it's 1.9, that 100,000 won't get lost. It will come back to CRTPO. So you're not actually having a surplus for your project. You'll still have your match amount that's needed. So here are the 2023 policy revisions. And again, as I just mentioned, we added in inflation last year. It's on all capital projects. It is not on planning projects. So your shortfalls and all of those other projects. Also construction on contingency on construction, again, was new. Highway score modification, the project oversight committee recommended higher increasing the highway safety points from 10 to 15, and the board ultimately adopted that. So that is out of 100 points um, for the highway scores. There's a clarification on the readiness score. So this again is based on the request of funding by phase. So you can be in the design phase, but if you're only asking for construction, you'll get those readiness points. So the purpose of having the readiness score is to help make the funds go as far as possible. So if you're not asking for PE or right of way, then ultimately it's a less amount. So you're going to get rewarded for that. The air quality scores, we'll look at that in a minute, but you need to use the CMAQ toolkit. There's no CMAQ funds this year available this round, but there's the carbon reduction, and I'll go over that just a little bit. The other thing we added in is a transportation disadvantage index and a crash reduction score of 10 points. And I will show you on the appendix 3, I think it is, of the policy, how to calculate that. And these links are also all in the application. So I tried my best to make the applications very inclusive. And if you need to go to another site, there should be a link within the application. So you're opening one document. If you need to go look at estimating tools, for example, there should be a link there. If you need to go to the TDI map, for example, there should be a link there. So I've done my best on that. Here's the discretionary grants program. Again, found on our website, and I'm just showing you the appendix 1 through 6. There's some great information in here. There's some of the scoring criteria. So you might enjoy looking at that, trying to figure out how you might score. This is appendix 3 in the crash equity or crash reduction in equity. Underneath this little box, this is worth 10 points, but if you scroll down on appendix 3, it'll have all the links in there for you. So go through that. The crash reduction factors are forward-looking. So much of what we do is backward-looking with traffic safety. And so one thing you have complete control over is doing the crash reduction factors. And again, this is just for highway, but the more safety treatment you put in, the higher you'll score on that. So we try to give you something that you can control. Here's the carbon reduction. So again, starting last year, we required that you use the CMAQ toolkit. I think this was required maybe at some point before I started. And then we kind of took it over and we were doing the CMAQ toolkit behind the scenes. And then when we received carbon reduction funds, we decided we would just make this a requirement of the application. The application will guide you through the process. It's mainly the inputs that you need to put in, and then it will calculate, and again, in this case for CRP funding, the carbon dioxide score, and then we will use that when we rank your project. The bike ped part application has a workbook with it, and this is for your own use. It's not required. These drop downs are identical to what is in the application. So if you fill this out once, you're basically done the application. You can just transfer everything over to the application. The reason why I wanted to create this workbook, and it's been a few years now, is if you have 4 or 5 unfunded projects and you're not sure if they'll score, in this workbook, there's tabs at the bottom, and you can put in up to 5 projects, and you can compare the scores on which ones you think might score better. And you can also play around with, if you have destinations, for example, if you have more than 6, you can play around with which ones are going to score better. So again, totally optional. The transportation score guide is in the application with a link. Everything's sort of color coded. So if you have a question on destinations of interest, for example, you can go to the active transportation scoring guide and I'll have a little description of what to do. So hope you find that easy. And again, all of this is in the application, and do it once. And you can just transfer all the stuff over. Those are all drop downs, by the way, on the workbook. So try to make that as easy as possible. And in the fall time, we accept applications for planning projects. The planning projects, in the pre-submittal meeting, we talk about the scope, problem statement, what are you trying to solve with your plan? We'd like to make sure that it's incorporated with, aligns with what CRTPO is doing. So what is the relationship with the 2050 MTP, or are there some beyond 77 study benefits to your plan? Some examples. What your project schedule is, what kind of challenges you need. Technical coordination is more, what will you need from our staff, CRTPO, and then a budget. How did you get to that budget? Which is, again, a little bit of an unknown. You don't necessarily know what the consultant is going to charge you. If you're a little bit high in the application, this is two-edged sword. If you're a little bit high in the application and you don't need it all, again, the funding comes back to us. The catch on that is if you're a little bit high in the application and consultants see that, they might try to go that high. Just saying, the real world. The CRTPO target for funding planning projects this year is about $330,000. We've been under that amount for the most part in the last 4 or 5 years that I've been here. So it's a healthy amount. It's up to discretion on what the project oversight committee wants to recommend to the TCC, and then ultimately, again, with the board. The planning projects require 20% match. If you put more in there, you don't necessarily score higher. I suppose we would look at that though. Form 1 and 2 is not needed. If you're awarded, will probably require a presentation at this transportation staff meeting. When we do the applicant presentations on November 14th, we don't usually include planning projects because our list will already be long enough. Almost done. Applicant presentations again on November 14th from 2 to 4. These are remote only. They're optional. The gist is to just share your project. So we allow 5 minutes per project, 3 slides. We've been back and forth on cover slides. I guess if you want to put a cover slide on there with your town, that will accept that. So could be up to 4, but really keep the title simple. Animations, yeah, within reason. That's all I can say. You need to be within the 5 minutes mainly. So if we have, 20 projects and everybody wants to present on those, we just need to be careful of time. We ask that you don't go into funding requirements or funding discussion. Just keep it simple. What your project's about, what the problem is, how your design's going to fix the problem. So again, no points on that, but it is fun. I hope you can participate. We'll have more participation on that at transportation staff meetings in the future, but not this year. So with that, let's do questions from the chat if there are already, and then we'll let you go off the remote.
Yeah, you had 2 from Bjorn.
Okay.
The first is the shortfall request the greater of the $2 amounts?
Shortfall request greater of the 2.
Didn't catch where on here.
Bjorn, can you come off mute and ask that?
Yeah, that was when you were presenting about the shortfalls.
on Form 2 maybe?
It was just a bulleted slide.
Policy changes.
Was it about 3
Um,
million, double the cost?
Yes.
Yeah, that one.
So, oops, I forget what it was. Sorry. Yeah. Um. So, you might have to repeat yourself, sorry, I'm lost. So the 3 million starts with the older projects. So the shortfall request will be capped at 3 million. If you're coming in right now on an older project and you have a shortfall, it would be, is it capped at that 25%? I don't think we have anything that specifically says that in the policy. I would defer to the project oversight committee. Seems like they would cap it at the 25%. Not sure.
Jennifer,
And
I think maybe it was on slide 8, the application requirements, the last bullet.
Slide 8, so I don't have numbers here.
But
But I just
I saw it. I saw it.
the green box.
Yes, that one. See,
Yeah.
starting with
Yes.
awards, and was that where when you had your question, Bjorn?
Yes.
So did I answer it? Because I don't really have an answer. I can have a little bit of fun. I mean, again, if it's an older application, you can apply. I would think it would be capped at the 25%, just like we do new projects. But I would defer, I will review the policy to see if it says that. And then the POC would need to discuss it. If it's not clear.
And then Bjorn had another question from chat, asking, did the carbon reduction calculations for electric car chargers get corrected?
So Bjorn, we talked about this in the project oversight committee. So to get everybody else up to speed, last year we had an application for EV charging at a park that was close to Independence. And the input there, the input on that included all of the cars on Independence as a potential candidate to go to the EV charging in this park. The POC staff recommended to the POC that we continue to use the CMAP toolkit, but we look a little bit closer at the inputs. And so we were a little bit afraid to start tweaking the CMAP toolkit because I think we could be going down a rabbit hole real fast. The other thing is we only have $500,000 more of carbon reduction funds. The program may or may not continue. So it could be potentially a lot of work to make some edits. I think, we'll look and see what the applications come in. It was discussed, there'll be one.
That's it in chat.
Okay, so if anybody else would like to either raise their hand and I'll rely on you all to call on them or just come off mute, see how that goes.
Jennifer, this is Bill Thunberg for folks like Rick and some other folks that might not be as familiar with this information, and they're thinking about submitting projects. Are there filtering questions like is it on the federal aid system, and that they should think about before they start digging into these applications?
Yep, so in the application, it has a series, it's not straight questions like a little matrix where you're checking off, but there's a lot of information at the beginning of the applications. Not so much those first 4 pages, but when you actually get into the application at the bottom. So we'll talk about the federal aid for highway. And again, for bike ped, would strongly recommend using the workbook, because that is where you're really going to know how you score. And I believe scores last year were like 170 up were awarded projects for bike ped. And so I'm happy to pull those scores. I'll email them to you, or I can even share them at the next TSM meeting. So that is sort of your series of questions to start gauging how you're gonna score. The highway projects last year, I believe the cutoff was about in the low 30s for score. That seemed a little bit on the low side. I would think you'd want to score somewhere in the 50, 60 range, but the hard part with the highway is that after you submit your application for highway projects, we get with NCDOT to get raw data, and then we start scaling projects. So it's a little bit harder to know how you'll score on roadway versus bike ped. And that's why I kind of like the workbook for bike ped, because you have a feeling of where you're going. You all really need to call on us as much as possible if you're new. And if you're a little bit shy, you can have a one-on-one with me before pulling in others. For the pre-submittal meetings, we pull in others. But if you want to just have some sit-down meetings first, please. Yeah. Any other questions? It's a lot of information because we're covering 6 different types of applications. I think I haven't been on the other side using my own applications, but I really tried to make them holistic. So as you're going through, again, if you need to do some research that's not right in front of you, there should be a link. And the bike ped applications, my guess, take the longest to fill out because you're doing the destinations. Also for GIS mapping, most of our members have the capability to send shape files, but if you're a smaller town and you need assistance with that, just let us know and we will do that for you. All right. Well, that was a lot. Thank you so much. And I know most everybody on the call, but there were a handful of new names. Sounds like Theo's clock. So feel free to reach out to me at any time. There's my email address. Oh, I'm not out of the office September 1 through 8. That was last year. I told you I was typing over things. So I'm here. All right, Travis, you want to wrap it up?
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Thank you all for, you want to stop the recording now?